appreciate you coming on, Anthony. It's awesome.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
I've got to watch you over the years run a few cars. I don't know if I've ever shared the arena with you, but I have got to watch you run. You're pretty much a full pedal guy. So
Yeah.
Before we even get into the nitty gritty stuff, I admired what you did down in Vegas because you had some hardships down there between the transmissions and everything else. Was it something like 3 transmissions you changed out?
Yeah, every heat it ended up being a transmission. So,
and for anyone that doesn't know, that is not an easy feat.
A nightmare with those builds.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was full tranny braces, so I was.
Yeah, we had mid plates, everything, and so it was
Everything's pressured in and
cut everything out on pressure, ink it out, quarter powers go back
3
in.
times.
3 times, and it was 3 different transmissions. It wasn't even 3 of mine or whatever. I borrowed one from McPhee.
Right.
It was kind of his backup, and it failed. I borrowed one from another person, and it failed. It just was. I don't even know what was going on. It just
too much skinny pedal.
too much.
But that's the part people don't see. I was there. I ran. I seen you guys how hard you had to work. I mean that's. I'm glad I didn't have to work that hard because that looked miserable. I mean that was.
And it paid off. I mean we finally got one transmission and it worked out. That worked and made that last round count. So.
Right.
Same time, though, you're watching guys that got 30 minutes of work on their car, and you're dying for the 3rd time on a tranny.
We got guys in their street clothes that normally don't helping to put cars back together just to get them back on the track.
Well, it takes an army, especially for shows with that style build. It takes an army.
Being pressured in has that whole nother level of having to change a tranny.
Yep. And the car was never the same after the first go.
Right.
No.
Never
will be as strong as it was.
Right. I'm assuming you had to pull it down probably every time too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you did, if I recall, did you roll someone?
No, that was my teammate. Jesse.
Yeah.
Warner.
Was it? Did he roll Willie
twice? Didn't he?
Yeah.
He rolled somebody twice, didn't he? Well, his nose went up so damn far.
Two different heats or rounds. Yeah, he rolled somebody.
Which some people go their whole career and don't get to do that.
Well, his nose is so far in the air, and that first time, and I said, "There's no way that thing's coming back down."
Right.
And it came back down.
Yeah, that was wild.
That must have taken some work.
Yeah, tow truck.
Yeah, that thing was up there. I said, "There's no way it comes back out flat again." I said,
"Yeah."
Boy, them guys putting in some work back there. But again, back to the team stuff. When you go to show that that quality, you got buddies. If you're going to be successful, you got friends with you.
Yeah.
Not outside of the people on your team because it takes an army to get some of that stuff done.
Absolutely.
So you're out of Benson, Utah.
Yep.
Small town, big town?
Tiny, farm country, as far north into the state of Utah as you can get, right at the Idaho border.
Okay. So good for finding cars yet, or not really?
I would say we're pretty well picked over. I'd bet in a 50-mile radius from me, old Iron GM, there's maybe... I know 5 or 6 that are still left out there that are people won't let them go.
They're gonna. I'm gonna restore that one day.
I'm gonna restore it. But
those
for
guys.
the most part, everything's gone.
Okay. So born and raised, is there a school there?
Yep.
Yep.
Just raised and born and up there in Cache Valley, little tiny area, and there's probably 15, 20 Derby guys.
Yeah.
There's probably a group of 5 or 6 of us that really travel a lot together.
Okay.
Out of that Vegas show, our whole team was up there in Cache Valley.
Okay.
So we were all pretty tight-knit group.
Awesome.
That usually run a handful of shows. So.
Sure. So what got you into the Derby? I mean, started at a young age? Or?
Well, you guys just chatted with Gumby.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's got their own story, and some of them are a lot different than others.
Yeah.
There used to be 3 shows a year up in the valley where I'm at.
Okay.
And one spring, one summer, one fall. And as kids, I remember, the whole family go watch the county fair show.
Right.
And, Gumby was one of the drivers. Johnny was a driver,
Okay.
And Gumby had his big Gumby character on the top of his car.
Yep.
And, I was, 7, 8, 10 years old watching this stuff. And then there's some big families that derby up there. And the Granges is another one. And just being around them a lot, I said, I was like 17 years old. I said, I want to do that, And so I went and reached out to him and said, what do I do to get a car? And they said, "Oh, look for this or that," and I ended up finding a car, and I built with another buddy of mine, and it was his first time too, and we built cars and ran them.
Sure.
First show was in Logan, Stern Dirt show.
Sure.
It's like not when Stern Dirt first started, but when they started kind of gaining some momentum.
Yep.
Yep.
And I remember their green ramp, first time they had it out, driving over that, I was scared to death, ran my first show, and I think I took like 3rd or 4th place. Small show, 20 cars, and I was pretty well hooked at that point.
Yeah. Well, the place and even the top
Yeah.
5 in your first one,
Yep.
that's like instant hooked.
Yeah. What was your first car?
85 Grand Marquis.
Yeah.
So box Vic, and at that point, I mean, that was, people were still running anything and everything,
Right.
It wasn't a Crown Vic, like they are
Right.
now,
Right.
and about 15 years ago, and
Sure. Do you stick to a certain build, certain car, I should say?
not necessarily.
Yeah.
I'll wheel about anything.
Yeah.
I mean, just like a lot of guys that run a lot of shows,
Right.
I've got a bunch of GMs that I'll run, and then a bunch of Crown Vics. I'm not afraid of running a Crown Vic.
Okay.
Sure. Kind of
show
show
around
specific cars then?
Yeah, for the
kind
most
of.
part.
Yeah.
Just the rules, I'm
Right.
a builder, so I mean, I don't really care.
Yeah.
You got to build a lot of cars too a year.
Yeah.
So
How many cars do you think you build an average a year?
I've been averaging. I slowed down a little bit the last 3 or 4 years, but there for a while I averaged 15 shows a year, and I think I did 9 last year. So I'm slowing down to about 10 shows, and I build between 6 and 8
Oh,
cars
wow.
a year.
Wow.
Try to get a lot of that prep work done during the wintertime?
No, I'm
All
a last
summer long?
minute.
Oh, last minute.
Yeah, we'll
Game
take a
time
car.
guy.
Zero sleep.
Yeah, one
Still
week
doing it the old
build.
school way.
3 of us hammer it out. We'll run the show. If we get lucky, we get another show out of the car.
Yep.
Push it in the corner, work on it for a couple of days before the show, the next one, and then the second that's done, we get home from the Derby Saturday night, Sunday morning, we tear down.
Right.
Monday, a new car goes in. The only prep work I usually have is the car stripped
Right.
beforehand.
Right.
And then it's back to the build, Wednesday, the cage is done, doors welded, Thursday, motor's going in, and we're back to the track last minute on Saturday.
Yeah.
So every week, that's how it seems to be.
Yeah.
Which,
You always
I
tell
don't know.
yourself, I'm not going to do it like that next time.
yep.
Yeah. And then it
you-
happens.
and then it happens, yeah. I know I'm going to run the show 3 months from now. I'm going to have a car done a month before that. No. 3 o'clock the night before.
Right.
You're painting, if you're painting.
Yeah. No paint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no paint. You a no paint
Usually,
guy?
I mean, I'd love to do it, but that's way
Usually,
low on the list.
yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, just doing that alone, building within 1 week, it's pretty hard on the family life too. So, as you know, I think you got kids, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of pulls on the heartstrings too a little bit, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've gone the rounds plenty of times, and
Yeah.
I think, the wife had never been to a Derby before we met,
Oh.
so it was all new to her.
Okay.
And then she's actually driven now,
Okay.
so I think that was kind of a little bit of an
Turning point.
Yeah, turning point where she's like, oh, okay, I see why, more
Right.
than just showing up. And she's ran quite a few shows now. She's ran cars, she's ran 2-man extreme type stuff. She's
Okay.
ran trucks. Back when I
Cool.
was big into trucks, we'd take a truck for her and a truck for me, and we'd run every weekend, And I think she ran like 7 or 8 shows one summer.
Wow.
Oof.
And so that was kind of like, baptism by fire right there. You just can't.
Absolutely.
So at that point, and then now kids, I've got 3 kids,
Yep.
and they run Power Wheels stuff. And then you keep them involved as much as possible.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
They get it, and by the time you work and build, it's kind of almost like the Derby's the break from it all.
Right. It's the family
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
a lot of guys that Derby a lot. You hear them say, we don't take vacations like a normal family does. They're like, our vacation is taking the whole family to the track on Saturday.
Yeah.
But that's what they look forward to.
Yeah.
For the people that really are passionate. How old's your oldest kids?
So the oldest is 7,
7.
almost 8, and the youngest is 3.
They love it.
Yeah. So I've got 2 daughters. They're the older, 7 and 5, and then the boy, he's 3.
Yeah.
And I think I'll wear the girls out by the time they get old enough that they can drive. But even, promoting the show this year, they loved that side of it.
Sure.
So I think you'll see a lot of that involvement.
Which I was going to ask you about. You promoted your first show this year?
Yeah.
What show?
It's called Box Elder Bash. It's up kind of northwest side of just below Idaho, also up kind of by me. And a partner of mine, Bronson Twitchell, he ran Vegas with us. We teamed up and put on a show this year. And
Sure.
It's interesting, an eye-opener.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
It's a different perspective on the promoter side.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, I wish more people. It'd be great if everybody did it.
Yeah.
Because then you see the other side of it.
Yeah.
How much work goes into it on the backside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
We get asked quite a bit about it, and I think even getting instructions, Joker lives out here. We got a lot of input from him and a lot of help and assistance, and that was good. And Gumby offered a lot of help and assistance.
Sure.
And I think everybody was they were hopeful for us, but they didn't doubt us. But I think they just are like, man, I don't think you know what it's going to take,
Yeah.
It was new, you know. And we went from, we didn't partner with the county fair or anything. It wasn't part of an event or anything. We started from scratch.
Sure.
So we were in charge of everything from
dirt work to
venue to ticket sales to
fire
concessions
on site,
to the whole
permitting.
9 yards.
Okay.
So we got it all the first go around, and it was good.
Right.
It worked out well.
Good. Going to do more shows, or do you have? Yeah.
So same show, same place.
Yep.
A year later, so it's gonna be June 10th, and we just there's such a demand right now in this community for entry level builds, and so we did that wire class.
Yep.
Has been talked about, and it did good. I think we'll even have more. I think we had just under 40 cars there.
Oh wow.
So for around here, it's
pretty good.
Plenty good for a small show,
Right.
At some point, you can only tech so many cars too. You run out of time.
Oh yeah.
That wire class that you guys were on there, that kind of the entry level build, that's like stock drivetrain, stock rear end, isn't it?
Yeah, 80s and newer, and then it's motor tranny. It came in the car.
Oh, okay.
And
So it's kind of like run what you found, basically.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, everyone's got to try something to get new drivers in. That's what we all want to see.
Right.
I mean, none of us want to see it die because we've all done it.
Yep.
We all do it. We all want to keep it going at some extent.
But again, we've talked with everybody else about it. Is build levels have gotten, like I said, they went this way for so many years, and because of that, there isn't something down here for somebody new to jump into without going straight to here.
Right.
And then obviously it's going to drop the amount of car counts that are coming in. So, are you seeing that in the shows you're running?
100%.
You are?
Yeah, my hometown show in Cache Valley, Logan, Stern Dirt puts on. I think they call it Cache Carnage.
Yep.
I won that last year.
Okay.
Twitchell won it 2-3 years ago. I won it the year before that. There's kind of just like a group of us that, it's hard to beat. And as enjoyable as it is to win a show, we look at that and it's like, this isn't good for it,
Right.
There's nobody else can come in and beat a group of drivers or some veteran drivers, and it's just not beneficial for the sport, as much as it's fun.
And it's good to see, drivers, like I said, that the ones that have been in the sport long enough are the ones that understand that, and they go,
right.
I don't see young guys coming in like when I, yourself or whatever, like when I first started or you first started, there was all sorts of new people that were trying it out. You could always see new faces popping up, years and years and years ago, and you don't see that anymore. And the guys that are serious about the sport, that want to see it keep going, understand that we got to get new blood into the sport. And it needs the rule count needs to go back. We did that kind of with our stuff up in North Dakota, where like we started running a stock main class. We call it stock. You're allowed some stuff, obviously, but and the veteran drivers we like this, because
Toned it back.
if you're heavy enough into the sport, I can knock this out in 2 days.
Yeah.
And we catch some backlash from a few drivers that are like, well, we want full cradle, full this, full that, but there's only a handful of those drivers left that
are actually going to go to the extent to build that car.
correct. And then you try and run that, you only get a few cars to show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
How many shows do you think you've ran since you've started derbying?
Oh, I tried counting a while ago.
Yeah.
And that first year I started derbying, me and the buddy, we built 5 cars.
Okay.
And I mean, I look back at that, 15 years ago, and it was like a car rear end would go to the dirt.
Yep.
I'd have the loader loaded on the trailer at the end of the night at the track, and I'd haul it at the scrap yard. I just didn't even know,
Right.
And so I built and ran, 5 cars that first year.
Sure.
And then it just grew from that. And so, I don't know, I surpassed 100 cars probably, 150 shows. I don't even know.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's
hard to keep track after a while.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially when there ain't a whole lot of sleep during the summer, trying to keep up with them builds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's.
You got outside of promoting your own show and stuff. Do you have any big plans for 2023 as far as shows?
Yeah, I'm just trying to. I had a good season last year. I ran, a lot of shows around here. I ran Stern Dirt's Point Series deal.
Yep. Sure.
I ended up winning that deal. It
Sure.
came down to me and a guy out of Nebraska. And I guess it wasn't intentional at first, but after you start the season out, a good win, and you kind of get a jump on it. It's
Right.
like, maybe I ought to try,
Put the work in, yeah.
So we kind of tacked that, and I think it'd be hard to not try a little bit towards that again.
Right.
So we signed up for Stern Dirt's first show down in St. George in southern Utah.
Okay.
Here in a couple months. So
When's that show?
April 22nd.
April.
So Dixie Destruction.
Okay.
Sure.
It's like a 8 or 10,000 to win show. So we'll head down there and start the point series off at that.
What's
And
that build
then
style?
It's they call it like a limited weld.
Okay.
I think we're still on that upward progression on the builds. I
Sure.
think it goes in that cycle, We're
Yep.
still climbing. And then eventually it'll drop back to bone stock again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're any rear end now.
Okay.
Aftermarket bell only, no brace, lower
Sure.
cradles, 10-inch bumper shock.
Okay.
So nothing too crazy, but
No, not too bad.
light limited.
Right. Okay.
And there's a few things, that they've slowly started changing up. It's been a GM dominant type show, and I'm going to take a 98 to 02 this year and just try it. They've added a few things. We'll see. I'll try about any car a couple times, and
Right.
Right.
so.
I mean, you see people win big shows all over the place with different stuff, and then it starts piquing people's interest,
Yeah.
Right.
Like that 80s in Newark County down in Bash, last year?
Yeah, there's one this year too.
Or the year-
Hollywood. Derek.
Yeah,
Close.
Crelo. Yeah, and just hammering out there, and then people are like,
Yep.
"Oh!" Now you start seeing them pop up every now and then. But
Now they were $300 cars. Now they're 1,000.
yeah, exactly.
What is like average car price out here?
From derby guy to derby guy, you still see them, $1,200 to $1,500. I don't think we're getting to where, if you're going to buy a wagon from another derby guy, they're $3,000 or so.
Yeah.
Crown Vics, they're just not, predominant type car out here, so
Right.
they're cheap, $500 or less.
Which is
So
a little bit easier on the pocketbook.
yeah.
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 You see a lot of people. I won't say a lot, but you're starting to see some people transitioning that way, just because the sheer volume of them that are around.
Yeah.
It's just easier to get a hold of. It's a cheaper build, as far as starting off with a cheaper car, and a lot of places that buy and sell parts are starting to create parts and stuff for that. So it's becoming a lot easier just to, I need this, buy,
Yep.
get it sent to the
Right.
house
Right.
versus trying to create everything from scratch. It's not really. Some people still do it all that way. Obviously, it's a little cheaper on the pocketbook, but
Right.
now that you can get on the internet and order something, have it delivered in a couple days.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
I think what you're going to see too is, and we already are kind of seeing that out here, and probably the further east you go, it's already past this point. But when we're introducing 80s and newer wire type shows for these youth, they get familiar with an 80s car,
Right.
and so when they move to the next step beyond a wire show,
Right.
they're not going to necessarily go look for an old iron car.
Right.
So
they're going to jump right into.
What age range do you stick with for the?
So at our youth, so we did 80s wire open class, and then we had youth filler heat.
Okay.
And it was like 12 to 15, 12 to 16.
So how do you How do you go about having a 12-year-old in a car? Is there someone else in the car with them?
Nope, everybody ran solo in this class.
Okay.
The biggest thing is we regulated, if you were 16 and you were bouncing between the adult class at some shows or the youth class, you didn't run with the youth, you ran the adult class. And I think at the moment that we're in, they're policing it, self-policing it. The parents are involved enough that they know, and we are very involved with the driver base, and in contact with them. So right now that's basically how we're going about it, monitoring it as closely and safely as possible. But
is there any worry with the 12 to 15-year-old drivers as far as like throttle sticks, don't know what to do, go over the berm type deal? Or
we actually had them get pretty far up into the dirt berm. I think when we built our track, we went into it with the mindset, that could be a problem.
Right.
So we prepped for that specifically.
Gotcha. Berm height's a little higher.
Berm height's a little higher, a little deeper, officials stood back a little further. Yeah, and we cut it straight bank to kind of keep
ramps.
It. And we still had a couple cars end up over, but by the time they got up on the berm, they were done.
Wow, and those stock engines that don't quite have the power.
They don't. Yeah, you don't got an 800 horsepower car out there with a 12-year-old in it either.
It was impressive though to see how well a youth could drive. I mean, there were some drivers you could pick them out and be like, "Oh, that's that 14-year-old kid's first derby, and he drove like that. He'll be a force to be reckoned with in a matter of years."
I'm sure there were some kids probably too that had you could tell they were somebody's kid.
Oh yeah.
He's been watching Daddy for a few years. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, there's a Greer kid that was up there, and him and his sister both ran, and they both did really, really well. Yeah. And then, like, you see his dad run at Heber at that big show, and ended up winning the wire class up there, the East Wire, and so you'll see that and it'll help it grow for sure when you're starting to get those young kids and involved.
Right. Yeah, it's good to see. We haven't dabbled in the young age, but I don't know, maybe it's worth it.
It's been talked about.
There's always the safety side of it.
I think we're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Everywhere else is starting to get on board. Not everywhere, but certain places are starting to drop this youth class. Because let's be honest, 15 years ago when you started derbying, did anybody care how old you were when you got in the car?
No.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah, you just
did it.
You were just there and got in a car.
And
then as time progressed, they started putting age limits on stuff, and that stopped getting them young people interested from an early age. And then you end up, 10 years down the road, now you don't have them young drivers anymore. So.
Right.
No, that's good information.
It's interesting.
We've been asked
we don't see young kids. I shouldn't say we don't see young kids, but it's not allowed, like in probably the tri-state area for us. So you don't see that young of kids driving.
Some places will have it. Like Minnesota runs a few youth classes. Some places, North Dakota's I think had one or two over the past 3 or 4 years where they've had a youth class. But it's always such a sore subject from the venue standpoint.
Yeah,
they don't want the liability side of it.
Insurance, because there's no driver's license.
Yep, and that's where I think too, putting on like the show that me and Twitch will put on.
Yeah,
where we did it 100% from scratch, we were able to dictate everything that went on.
Right,
and I understand that it could be tough at a fair level.
Right. Like a lot of our shows, are, we promote the show, but they're not. We're not ground up on them. We're there.
It's an established venue. Yeah,
it's an established venue. We're there because some entity wanted us to come help with their show.
Yep.
So we have ideas and whatnot, and some places a little different. We think we should run this, run that, but again, like I said, the liability and the insurance side comes into play when people start going, well, they don't have a driver's license, or we want them to have a passenger at least.
Yep.
Well, then when you put youth drivers in there, we see how that goes. Look at like Blizzard Bash youth class, compacts with passengers, door hits are everywhere.
Oh,
yeah.
Then you got to worry about twice as many door hits with passengers. So can make it exciting, but also,
scary.
Yeah.
I think that, having aware promoters, we get a lot of drivers that are itching to get that build a little bit harder and a little bit stronger and a little bit this, and those are the key points that you have to remember,
Right.
You've got 12-year-olds, you got 15-year-olds driving these cars, there's a reason for keeping them that stock, for keeping them that mellow, but the second you start getting
Yeah.
more and more, then you probably can't really have that be a set of rules for a youth class.
Correct.
Right,
I mean,
right.
if it is going to be a true youth class, you know, that 13 to 16, whatever it is, with no passenger, it needs to be a stock.
Yeah.
It's stock as
Yeah.
it gets, you know, especially to give them a taste of, you know, trying to help build that car without having to change everything on it from the start, you know, trying to
Right.
get that interest. I think that's the way to do it. I think you guys are doing good there.
So, switching gears a little, from the Gladiators of Steel, you know, standpoint, how'd you get involved? How's the experience been? You know, kind of that whole deal.
It's been good experience.
Yeah.
Fun, yeah. Cool to see it grow and evolve.
Yeah.
I filmed a little bit with another show that was here around
Sure.
the area a few years back, and then this show came along, you know, and
Sure.
some of us drivers started filming with that. And Vegas, I think, was kind of just the
kickoff.
kickoff for
Yep.
all of this. What I remember key about Vegas is like, you know, we're not going to pick drivers and say, hey, you know, we're going to be following you, but if you kind of did something noteworthy, or if you
Right.
guys, you know, put on a show, you know, that would pique interest from people, you know,
Right.
and that's kind of, I think, what started it. You know, we had a decent showing, whether it was putting 3 transmissions in a car, Jesse driving hard, you know,
Right.
and going,
Right.
and we ended up 3rd place at that show, and I think Santel's and
Yep.
one other team, Pete Hansen's
Hansen's
you know,
team,
and
yeah.
So we got to see a new spectrum of drivers that we never really run against,
Right.
And so I think that just being involved with that whole atmosphere and spectrum, you know, of people,
Right.
just kind of kick-started all of this.
Right.
And then it just kind of went from there, you know.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of put your face and name on the mainstream now.
Yeah.
In the
Good-
Derby world, I should
good,
say.
good and bad, you know.
Yeah,
good.
good
Now
and
people
bad.
know you bad. Now you might be a target.
Yeah.
That guy's on TV. I'm not,
sure.
but I'm gonna show him. Yep.
You know?
Fortunately, that's the way it works in the.
So,
Derby
yeah,
world.
I mean, and then it just, you know, you ever at a show that they were filming at, you know, and they may have interviewed you a little bit or watched you. And I think I run a lot of shows, you know, like we were talking
Right.
about. And so you're just a matter of time before you kind of run into them and
Right.
get involved.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they had GoPros and a lot of cars down there.
Yep.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, more footage come out. And, I don't know. You know, it's kind of like, other than what was on YouTube, you know, afterwards, that whoever filmed it, that's kind of all we've got to see from that show up until this point. So that's kind of cool. Brings that different perspective of what really happened down there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
you get to see some of it obviously through the Gladiators of Steel, but if you were there in person, you know that there's way too much going on to try and keep track of it all.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
You know,
if you were a
So-
driver, you really didn't get to
Right.
watch, especially probably you,
Yeah.
because you were constantly working on a car.
Right.
Everybody's like, oh, Vegas, Derby, let's go on vacation in Derby. And
Yeah,
that was just Derby.
yeah,
I haven't slept in 7 days. You know, what fun are you talking about?
yeah.
But yeah, you know, we've talked with Rocco there from Gladiators of Steel. He said they're gonna start releasing some more footage, you know, coming down like some full heat stuff, coming out of that, which will be great.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to watch, you know, maybe watch a full heat, but in the quality that they were able to shoot with.
Yeah.
Right.
As you know, again, something that's you're not going to be able to find anywhere else. So I think that'll be a game changer for what they're doing there.
Yeah, he's put a ton of work into it.
Oh yeah,
Right.
I mean, the amount of hours they've put in filming and editing and
Oh,
putting it all
man.
together. I mean,
Can't imagine.
it takes a lot of time and a lot of work, a lot of
Yeah.
Derby and a lot of time spent at the Derbies to get the footage, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
And they're the guys there before and after, you know, the show. Before the show starts, they're setting up, I'm sure, their media equipment, and
Yep.
after they're tearing down or whatever. So,
oh, yeah.
yeah. People might not get that, but it's like if you watch one of them episodes and think of all the different camera angles they shoot
yeah.
of like
there's
one
hours.
heat, and that's like, well, they shot each one of them cameras rolled the whole heat,
Right.
and they went through and clipped this and this and this to make just this one episode. Like that's thousands of hours of footage,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
That someone's got to go through and edit.
Right.
Oof to. Yeah. No, glad it wasn't me.
Nope. But so for the future, you got your show coming up.
Yep.
Next year, you're gonna try and chase down maybe some Stern Dirt point
Yeah.
series.
Stern Dirt Point Series.
Try for that back-to-back champ.
Yeah,
How often do you get out of the
see.
state?
It's weird watching I don't even know if you want to call it a derby career kind of change, you know. I've gotten more involved, you know, obviously with promoting.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've started teching a few shows. I went to California and helped inspect a handful of shows out there last year.
Sure.
And so it's kind of just changed it up where I may have traveled to a derby that weekend, you know.
Right.
I still make my way up into Idaho a lot. There's a quiet handful of shows that are up there, you know, that you can go and run. A couple sponsored by Stern Dirt's Point Series and different things.
Sure.
Went out to Blizzard Bash and ran 2 years ago.
Okay.
Me and Twitchell, Sam Bandow, and Travis from up there.
Okay.
It was a good time,
Yep.
an eye-opener. And that was my third time going out there. I mean, I've ran trucks out there. I ran limited welds, this qualifiers that we ran.
Oh, you ran qualifying
And
team?
we ran qualifying team. And it was a lot like Vegas, just a lot of work every single day.
Yeah, oh yeah. And the build is extreme.
The build was extreme. And we don't really have that style of build out here, so it's not like you can cross-utilize that car.
Right.
And so it's very, very specific. We ended up not making it back out this last year.
Right.
We'll see how all the pre-works for Sam's show goes here
Right.
in the next couple weeks. It looks like they're going to start registering for it.
Right.
May go, got a handful of shows. We may run Heber. We've got to inspect there, but
Sure.
they, you know, you qualify for that deal that they've got going on for that Champions Heat.
Oh,
And
right.
So we'll see. I don't know to see. I mean, I'm very not planned out for the season, but I'll be at a show every week, and it seems like.
Yeah.
In one capacity or another.
Yeah.
For sure.
So.
Perfect.
Minnesota had Winter Slam. That used to be a huge hit.
Yeah.
But now
19 degrees below zero, and there'd be thousands of
but
people standing there
COVID,
watching
it was one of them COVID shows that has gone with that.
Yeah.
That was, that was a 6,000 spectator show, and every class was always, it was a one and done. Every class was a one and done because it was cold. Who was going to work on their car? But that was a cool show.
We talked about with Gumby about that, not about that specific, but about, destination shows like Vegas is.
Yeah.
Winter Slam's kind of the same deal.
it
Everybody
was
knew it was
awesome.
going to suck. Weather sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, we're up in the Midwest.
Yeah, I mean,
You
it's
just
like
February,
snowing and
St.
you're going
Peter's.
through tech. And
St. Peter's, Minnesota, it's going to suck. Just not that the town sucks, but it's going to be cold. It's outside. But that's why you went.
Yep.
This is going to suck, but it's probably going to be fun at the same time.
Right. That was always a good show.
I mean, a little biased, obviously, because we're promoters. So
Yeah.
we can recommend some shows for you to come run.
Yeah, exactly.
A little far out of the way for you, though. God, that's got to be a
13 hours. Because I looked at, for us to come to Salt Lake, the drive would have been 13 hours.
yeah.
So
We're so spoiled here in Utah. I mean,
we got a lot of money.
Everybody always says Utah hard hitter. I mean, even that aside, there's a lot of derbies and a lot of money here.
Yeah.
Right.
So it is hard to leave.
It's hard to leave.
I
I mean,
totally
I can
get
run
that.
every single weekend at a 10,000 to win show.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's sad that there's a lot of those shows have 30 cars or less.
Right.
So, I mean, now that the competition is low, there's still good drivers there. There's just less of them.
Right.
And
right.
so
Quality of competition's still there, but the
quality's there,
volume.
the volume is down.
Yeah.
And so, why drive 12 hours when I can drive 2 hours?
And do the same thing.
Yeah, I can make it back home that night, like I said, be back to the shop building the next Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that's something we're working on. Not just us, but the current venues and stuff. Trying to get on board with the times. We're not going to we don't have Utah money, but trying to get these shows that we're trying to survive off of $3,000-4,000 total payout for a show, and it's like that doesn't work. Doesn't work anymore. And they want to keep having their show, but it's like then you got to go through the explanation process of these guys, even on a stock build, just in a decent cage, have $800 to $1,100 into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a medal.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's nothing else.
Right.
So, you want people to build cars to show up at your show. You got to give them something worth showing up for. Otherwise, they're going to save it for the next show down the road.
Right.
Which I think we're doing, not just us as Timeless, but I mean, the state is doing a lot better job. You get different promoters across the state that are helping get that number up there, which makes it a little easy for a driver to say it's worth building the car for.
Yep.
Right.
You know.
And not traveling out of state.
Right, yep.
To go somewhere like you.
Right, because I mean the money's obviously the money's enticing, but to travel, but I mean, let's be
Now
real.
with the economy, it's
Diesels
harder
came
to
down a
travel.
little bit, but for a while there, $6 a
Yeah.
gallon for diesel. It's hard to want to go out of state because it's going to cost me as much to get there and back as I can win.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Fingers crossed there might be another Vegas show one day. That's
Yeah.
kind of the hopes as a,
Let's all hope that'd be good. That'd be a good time. I mean, it
wait
was
that
a good
out.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a few different promoters looking into it. So
Yep.
hopefully we see something. I guess.
Somebody. There's a lot of people got the itch for it.
Yeah.
Well,
Whether
it's
it's
one of
driving or
those spots, though. It's hard to beat just because of the. It's Vegas.
we got
It's
F1.
hard.
I got F1 coming to Vegas now.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's Vegas.
Yeah. It's just.
It'd be exciting. It'd be fun to see. I think they'd have a good turnout again. A lot of people after the last team show were like, "Man, we should have got in on that." And
Yeah.
then, next year we'll get in on it, and then obviously it never happened. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for coming,
Yeah,
having a
thanks for
conversation
having
with
me.
us here.
Yeah.
Good luck to you on your show this year,
Yeah.
Yeah.
June 10th, 2023.
Yeah. June
Maybe
10th.
we'll see you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to think what our schedule looks like. I
No,
don't know.
we don't. We have a show the following.
I have a car built, so I'm still trying to figure out where it's going to go.
Yeah.
It's pre-ran from last year, but it's not too, in pretty good shape. So I don't know. It's one of those things we can't run our own shows. So where do you go? We have
Downside,
to. We have to travel for it.
So, I mean, stock builds, medium builds, heavies.
Stock.
The one I have right now is pretty
Well,
much
yeah.
stock, in my opinion. Stock, I guess.
A lot of our shows are like we alternate kind of stock and limited weld as the main class. Like this show's stock with heats, then it's got a limited weld one and done. And the
Right.
next show is going to be limited weld with heats and a stock one and done. But our stock rules are we done with these?
Yeah. Thanks.
Down.